Shalom. All praise be unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Wadash. Peace and double honors to the apostle, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect. Mr. Brother Ashiar coming at you with another lesson of edification. Lord wills edifying to the Lord's elect, scattered abroad, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? And the Israelite foreigners, the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that scattered into the nations through their father's lineage. Okay, that's why he's called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, not the God of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel. Right, he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what he's known as. Okay, so getting into this lesson. All right, I wanted to touch on this topic. I was meditating on it, dealing with certain conversations with people outside of the truth and people that don't have any sense, which we avoid that at this stage in the game. Avoid it. If they didn't get it by now, chances are they ain't gonna get it. But sometimes the spirit jumps on you. You have certain conversations with people, and I wanted to do this lesson because it's something that we all deal with. When you speaking to people that are unbelievers, they just start making up things, or they'll go based off of something that they heard about the scriptures. Yahweh Shai mentioned these man-made doctrines, all right? The precepts of men, the doctrines of men. He said, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, doctrine, which a lot of it was man-made things. And that's what people rely on. And people will proclaim to be Christians. People will, post on social media about their love for God, they love God, every day is the day to love God, according to them, for an outward show. But when you actually speak to these people, you find out that they don't actually believe in the Holy Scriptures. All right. They don't actually believe in what is written in the book at the end of the day. And that's what separates us from the rest of this world. We wholeheartedly believe everything that's written in the book. All right. As it is written, blessed is he that readeth. See? And oftentimes people, they may really, they only want to deal with the sweet part of the scriptures. And you have to deal with both. We love the sweet part of the scriptures. You go into Psalms and certain things that's comforting when you're in a time of affliction. We also have to understand the other side of it. All right, the bitter. In the scriptures, it says there was a book, and within was written mourning, lamentation, and woe. That's a part of it, man. That's a big part of understanding this book. All right, it's a big part of understanding these scriptures is understanding that it's filled with mourning, lamentation, and woe. So oftentimes people that say things and make things up, and throughout their whole lives, nobody holds them to task for it. Nobody takes them to task for it. That's the phrase. Nobody holds them accountable. So in this world, people are allowed to say anything, believe anything, do anything, and nobody ever holds them accountable. Because in Esau's world, it's a do as thou will world. To each his own. You can be a Mo, but if you don't bother me, I don't care. And we're not of that mindset. We're of the mindset that those lifestyles lead to death and they need to be eliminated from the earth. Okay, now are we saying we're going to be the ones that are going to do it? No. But we're telling you that in a righteous world, those lifestyles will not exist. All right? Being a homosexual. All right? That's not going to exist, man. All right? Pansexual, all these other things that they be making up. And when you speak to people that have been in the Christian church, they think that, oh, well, that was then. Now we're in the year 2026. That stuff, you gotta love people. And, one thing I hear all the time is he hates the sin, not the sinner. That's not nowhere in the Bible. That is not nowhere in the Bible. That is a phrase that people made up. Okay. And it sounds nice and it's appealing and it makes you feel good on the inside. So people just roll with it. not understanding that that is not scriptural whatsoever, man. The Most High, who is the one that's committing the sin? The sin is not some separate entity. Okay, people commit sins, and at the end of the day, we all have sins. But to say that he hates the sinner, not the sinner, no, he hates both. And until you repent, all right, you're still going to be looked at as a person that's worthy of judgment. You're still going to be viewed in the eyes of the Heavenly Father as a person that deserves judgment. So to say, oh, he hates the sinner, not the sinner, you're coddling people. You're making it seem like, well, it's okay, it's not, it's not your fault. You're just doing things and you don't understand. No, we're not here to coddle people. The Lord said he hated all workers of iniquity. What does that mean? See, this is the problem with this world, and this is the problem that this world has with us, is that every time they come with some falsehood, we have a scripture to back it up. So that's when they have to go to the tactic of, well, who even wrote the Bible? Is the Bible even real? Yeah, it's a good book and all, but that's when you find out that these people are faking it, and most of them don't truly believe. They just want to believe in whatever makes them feel good is what they'll believe in. Whatever appeals to them makes them and makes them feel fuzzy on the inside, that's what they'll believe in. But when it comes to the actual truth, when it comes to 100% truth, they don't want to get down with the scriptures. The scripture says things that for a Western mind, it'll fuck your head up. And in all honesty, when we first came into truth, certain things we heard, it was a culture shock. Okay. One thing that always comes up is the law concerning grape. All right, that if a woman is taken by force and she is not betrothed to a man, and she doesn't have a husband, period, she will have to the man that committed that act, he will have to pay 50 shekels to the father. Okay, and then she becomes his wife. But not everybody back then, people just read that and they just gloss over it like, oh, okay, well, that's, they look at that as savagery. But really what's going on in this world is savagery. That's order. Because now that's a law meant to protect women. There's accountability with that law. Where's the accountability now when women get raped? There's none. Yeah, they might throw the guy in jail, but that's if he gets caught, and what is the woman left with? In this situation, the father, which he's the one that's losing his possession, because the daughter belongs to the father until she becomes her husband's possession. So the father is meant to be the overseer over her. And when the husband comes into play, it's like he's taking that role. Okay. And it ain't in no weird way. It's just in a way of being a guardian or a protector of the woman. Okay. So the father's job is to guard and protect the woman until she's given unto her new protector, which is her husband. And in the case where there was a grape involved, he would have to pay 50 shekels, which amounts to a lot of money. I don't remember the exact amount. If you brothers on the comment board, you could look it up and drop the amount. But it's a lot. It's a significant amount of money to where you would definitely think twice, 3 times, 4 times about doing that. And if you didn't have that, there would definitely be consequences with the community and with the father and with the family if you did that to a woman and you didn't have the money to pay up. All right. So that was a deterrent. And that law led to a lot of grapes being avoided. Because if you didn't have the money and you're going to get your ass beat or potentially put to death if you took her and you didn't have no reimbursement, well, basically, you would have to have some way to pay him back. So you could be potentially in servitude to the father if you didn't have the money to pay up. So do you really want to go through all that? Now, it doesn't say that the penalty is death. All right. But, if you did that in the ancient times, I mean, we'll look at an example, even though this is dealing with a heathen, with the 12 patriarchs, their sister, I believe her name was Dinah. I got to go back into the story. Dinah, she got taken by force and they went and killed the whole town. Not saying that was justified, but They were heathens at the end of the day, you know, because Jacob said that you're going to make my name distinct throughout the land. But at the end of the day, you know, they took their sister, and there was a consequence for that. So that's the point that I'm making, is that uh, you know, if you were to do that in ancient times and you didn't have the money to pay, there's no telling what the reaction would be. All right. Whereas, okay, now there's a law set up to where, man, I don't got them 50 shekels. I need to leave that alone. You know, or I'm not trying. I don't have the 50 shekels, and I'm damn sure I'm not trying to deal with the father and the family, and the consequences could potentially be violence. You know, or being a slave to the father, okay, for however much time he deems that'll pay off that debt, then that's a deterrence. But if you don't deal with logic and reasoning, you're going to see it and you're just going to lean into emotions. And that's what most of these people do when it comes to the Holy Bible. They lean into emotions. They don't deal with truth. All right. They would rather lean into their emotions. Okay. They would rather lean into, you know, how they feel. And those, you gotta put aside emotions when we deal with the scriptures, man. We all had to do it. All right. There's scriptures that says that in the law that if a child is disobedient and they refuse to listen to their parents, the parents are supposed to put them to death. Okay, because they just completely wild. And the thing about it is, if you let that child on the loose wild, they could go potentially harm somebody else. So if you couldn't, you know, and that's why discipline is so important, and that's a protective measure as well, because you don't want them to become wild animals, you know, as brute beasts, as the scripture says, to where you can't control them no more. So that's another example. You know, now not saying that we exact those laws in this kingdom. Of course we can't. If you try doing these things, these laws in this wicked kingdom, you're going to get thrown under the jail. But what has been replaced with those laws? The system that we have now, is it leading to women being protected and not being raped? No. It's happening at a worse level than ever. So you got to deal with reality. Okay. Are children being obedient to their parents? No, they're becoming wild animals and more disobedient and spoiled and wicked than ever. All right. That's another example. Are marriages being sustained? No, because this society doesn't uphold the law on adultery. All right, that if a woman steps out on her husband and the man that she does that with, both her and the man are supposed to be put to death. That's the definition of adultery. When a woman steps out of her marriage and goes and sleeps with another man. So the man that did it with her is committing adultery, and she herself is committing adultery. So the consequence is death. If that law was in place, the divorce rate would be damn near zero. Okay? But it's not. So you have divorce, you have disorder. And what does that lead to? Once you have more divorces, you're splitting up families. Then that leads to children having fathers to guide them and having discipline. Then they go out and commit crimes, potentially murder. Then there's more bloodshed. So you see, this is the world that Esau Edom has set up. And that's why, you know, when it comes to people and their vain opinions, we ask, you know, where's that in the scriptures? Where is that in the Bible? And these are Christians, mind you. These are people that will put their hand on the Bible and swear in on it, you know, dealing with presidents, you know, different politicians, but they don't uphold nothing that's in the book. So that's hypocrisy, man. All right. So, you know, when it comes to people and their vain opinions, all you got to do to crumble their whole shit is, well, where is that in the scriptures? All right. And oftentimes when we bring that question out, damn near every time you're going to hear them, hey, shit, it ain't in the scriptures. That's just how they feel. Okay. They just make things up as they go, and whatever feels good, they go with it. You know, a mole, according to the laws of the Bible, a mole is supposed to be put to death. Okay. A man that deals with men is supposed to be put to death. All right. And they'll say, well, no, that was back then. It's 2026. Things have changed, Yeah, and things have changed for the worse. What state is the earth in with all these different doctrines and different philosophies being upheld? Complete and utter chaos and death, man, and destruction. This is the worst state that the earth has ever been in. Families are not remaining together. Blood, the streets are running red with blood, and it's just started. It's going to get much worse. All right. It's a jungle out there, man. Without the law, statutes, and commandments of the Bible being upheld. All right, and we're in these bodies of death. We know that we can't uphold the laws, even if we were given the opportunity, even if we were given a chance to have sovereignty, and we were still in these bodies, we would still go off. All right. So we know the ultimate solution is for us to be changed. That's another thing that scripture that Christians don't talk about. That's in the scriptures. We're gonna have new bodies. People look at us like we got 6 heads when we say that. New bodies, and that's bullshit. That's a fantasy shit. You making that up. That's in the realm of science fiction. That's you think you in a comic book, man? Come on. Well, the scripture says we're gonna have new bodies. The weakest, the feeble amongst us is gonna be as David. Look what David is. King David is an example of a real life superhero and his mighty men. And the thing about it is all of the elect of Israel, the men are going to be superheroes in that day, especially starting with the 144,000. Okay. So people will say, oh, but that's, oh man, here you go with that. Like we're saying something crazy. Just say you don't believe in the Bible then, because that's what the Bible says, man. All right. Look at the men of old. Elijah cast down fire from heaven. The Lord used him to do that. They don't believe in it though. They don't believe that actually happened. That's the point. They don't truly believe, man. That's what you come to find out. Being in this truth, you find out that people just say things and they don't actually believe in what is written in this book, man. The prophecies that's written in this book, the history that's written in this book. All right. The stories, they don't believe in none of it, man. You see, that's what we have come to find out about these people. They don't believe in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua and his word, man. So that's the beautiful part about this truth. When you bring it out, certain detail, people that have proclaimed to love the Most High, they love God with all their heart. We'll bring out the laws and the scriptures of what the Lord said, and they'll turn their nose up. So that's where the scriptures say that they honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. I'm paraphrasing it. All right. That's what Jake does, man. They will honor the Most High with their lips. I love the Most High so much. You can make a status about it. You can make a post about it. But when it comes to the actual actions of loving the Most High, which to love him is to be obedient to him, obedient to his word, you're not going to do it. Okay? You're not going to take heed to what is written in the book. You're not going to adhere to what's written in the book. Okay? We bring out the laws and all of a sudden they turn on us. No, this is what we're the representatives of the Most High. This is his word. They'll look at us like, oh, so something's wrong with us. This is the book that the Lord ordained this book to be written. We didn't write it. We wholeheartedly believe in it, but this ultimately comes from the Most High. That's the point. So you looking at us like we the enemy, like we just got this whacked out, interpretation. All right, but you can't tell us what it means, but you're gonna say that we're wrong. So you explain to me, what is that law that says that if a woman is taken by force, she has to pay 50 shekels, or the man has to pay 50 shekels to the father? You can't break that down. Nah, that's a misinterpretation, Well, okay, Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed because it was men with men. And in certain translations, because in the KJV, If you're not learned, you could read it and try to interpret it another way because of the old English. But certain other interpretations will straight up tell you that it was men with men, as Apostle Paul said, men with men doing that which is unseemly. It's talking about being a mole, okay? Same sex relations, okay? The Lord ain't dealing with that. The Lord despises and hates that, man. So when you tell people about these things, they'll scoff like, "Ah, that's your interpretation. That's wrong." But they don't even know what it means themselves. If you can't tell me what it is, you can't tell me what it ain't. That's for sure. All right, that's 100% for sure. If you can't tell me what it ain't, if you can't tell me what it is, if you don't know what something is or the breakdown, if you don't have the knowledge on something, you're in no position to say, "Well, that's wrong," just because it doesn't appeal to your senses and your flesh. All right, because that's what they'll say. Yo, that's wrong. You can't say that. Well, that's what it says. So what does it mean? I don't know. So what the fuck you talking about then? You don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know the breakdown, but you're gonna pop your stupid ass head up. You know? That's why you gotta play spiritual whack-a-mole with these people, man. You know, because they'll pop their head up to say some stupid ass shit, and you gotta hit them with the scriptures, man. That's the mallet, the scriptures, and you gotta keep hitting all of the dumbass opinions that pop up. You know, that's why I said tearing down every stronghold and vain imagination. Okay, so that's what you have in this world, man. So when people pop up with those, wicked thought patterns and different things, we tell them, no, this is what it is. Nah, that's wrong. You can't say that, man. Well, you break it down. They don't even pop up to break down nothing. The only time they have something to say is to speak against the men that are actually doing it. You're not even a bench warmer. You up in the nosebleeds in the stands watching the game. We in the game, all right? Front lines in the game. The game being an analogy for this truth, teaching it, being out on the forefront, the highways and hedges, risking our lives, presenting ourselves as a living sacrifice. But you want to come, imagine a nigga from the nosebleeds in the stands. He climbed down the rafters, walk down the stairs, try to go past security and throw in a uniform and say, yo, put LeBron on the bench, man. Let me get up in there. Now, you don't need, who's a good baller right now? It's that nigga from the Memphis Grizzlies. I forget his name, but being from New York, the Knicks, you got put Brunson on the bench. Get hard up out of here. Let me get up in there. I'm gonna get in the game. You gonna get straight dunked on, man. All right, but that's the equivalent of what these people are doing. You in the nosebleeds. Better yet, you're not even in the stadium. You couldn't even afford a ticket to get up in the stadium. All right, but you want to be commented from your couch watching the game. All right, watching the game. Okay, you a couch commentator, man. You a sideline commentator, man. And want to talk to the men that's actually in the game, that train for the game. This is their whole life. This is their livelihood. This is their job, their profession. They have a God-given gift from Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai to teach, just like the basketball players have their gifts, right? But you want to come up and pop up, throw on a jersey and say, nah, I could be in the NBA. No, the fuck you can't. All right. That's what niggas on the sideline do, man. I could have been in the league, man. I could have done it. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Don't do shit for nobody, man. Yeah, they had put me up in there. That wouldn't have went down like that. You don't even, beer belly hanging out with a 6-pack. All right, eating a TV dinner, talking about how the dude on the screen, he's getting paid all that money to play ball, but you want to tell him how to do his job. That's what the equivalent of you people trying to break the scriptures down is, man. All right, and in fact, this is on an even higher level because this truth is for A very, very, very small number, okay? Relative to the masses. All right. You got more chances of being an NBA player, a pro, than getting this truth. That's how rare and coveted this truth is, man. That's how special of a treasure and gold and a gem that this truth is. But you want to pop your head up talking about, how it should be done or how, you know, you don't know the first thing about the Bible, man. You don't know the first thing about how the Most High gets down. You don't know the first thing about the judgments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. That's why Christianity is such a disease. You better off dealing with an atheist and trying to turn them over to the truth than a Christian, because it's so embedded in their mind, all these vain opinions, that you gotta get through the mire and the filth of what their mind has become. At least with an atheist, or maybe let's say an agnostic, somebody who said they believe in a higher power, they just don't understand, then at least there's a blank slate. You could deal with that. Like, all right, well, this is what it is. Start breaking it down. Maybe they'll get it. But when you deal with a Christian, they got all of these wicked philosophies embedded in their mind to where they're just gone, man. They're completely finished, bro. You see? So, I'm gonna get ready to close this thing out. I don't want to be ranting too much. I was quoting some scriptures that I know, But basically, man, these people don't have any sense, man, when it comes to the Holy Bible. They don't have not a lick of sense when it comes to these scriptures. And people love to just make shit up and freestyle and just whatever makes them feel good. There one dude that popped up and said that the Lord had a tattoo on him because it said they had a name. He had something written on his thigh. You see, this is the problem, man. It's like you try to hire a dude that never was a plumber in his life to go change your boiler in your house. That shit is going to be all types of fucked up. You're going to have a cold, dark, fucked up winter, man. Or you're going to die because of a gas leak because they didn't install the gas piping properly, man. See? So there's a lot of sideline, couch commentators out there. And we at the stage in the game where, those guys are just becoming less and less. All right. They've always been an afterthought, but now it's just the scoffers and the scorners, those that don't have 100% truth, and the Christians, they're taking the back seat, and the men of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai are rising to the top. Because when these prophecies pop off, that's another thing. If you don't understand prophecy, you're in deep shit. Okay. If you don't understand prophecy, you're in deep shit. All right, because as thing goes on, the Christian, they're looking around like, oh shit. When prophecy pops off, you don't hear Christians say nothing because they know they're gonna look fucking stupid. Prophecies go down, all this war with Iran, where the Christian pastors popping up to break it down? It's written about Armageddon. Okay, even Colonel McGregor, I heard him talking. And, I like how he breaks down the politics and everything. But when it comes to this Bible, these people are lost, man. Because he said, Lord's will I could tap in on a lesson on this too. But he basically said about Iran, how they're basically still he believes that the war is still going to go down, which that's the signs that we see, because the vessels and things, they're still moving it into that region. So you can't look at what they say. You got to watch what they do. But he said there's some lunatics out there who think that there's some religious reward for Armageddon, but the rest of us, it's not so. But so you don't believe in the Most High? But this will be the same guy. I'm not saying he is a Christian, but he looked like the type that'll say he's a Christian. That's what's written in the Bible, Armageddon. The followers are supposed to look forward to the end time because it's deliverance from this shithole, man. So yes, Armageddon and thermonuclear obliteration is better than the earth that's set up right now. That goes to show you how low it has gotten. If anything, that should make you look around and say, man, this world must be extremely, exceedingly wicked. And they're breaking that down constantly about how wicked the earth is. But then when you say, well, hey, the solution is going to be thermonuclear destruction, even Alex Jones got that. He said, you know, cities, LA, New York, it wouldn't be so bad. They just send the missiles, just obliterate him. Yeah, he might be a Jake, that nigga, you know? But Colonel McGregor's like, you know, these lunatics, they think there's some religious reward for Armageddon. You know, we're not, you know, for the rest of us, it's not the case. Yeah, because that ain't for that salvation ain't gonna be for you. It's inevitable. Okay. All the signs are telling you that it's happening. You know, and that's why they're gonna turn to us and say, well, shit, y'all been the ones speaking this, you spoken into existence, it's your fault. Because y'all said it so much, you made it happen. And that ain't far from the truth, because the Lord putting the spirit on us to say it. Once the Lord puts a word out through his servants, the prophets, that now that we've been saying it, the word that the Lord been having us say is reshaping the earth, is reshaping the events on the earth. So yeah, it was according to the word that the Lord gave us. Okay, so everybody's subject to what the cops start popping off, they look, you know, whistling. You know, it's like a kid in class that don't know the answer. They hope the teacher don't call on them. You know, nigga just starts. You see that one bead of sweat trickle down his head. Milk dud head ass pastors, man. They hoping that they don't get called on. You know, whereas the star pupil is the first one raising his hand. I know the answer. I studied it. Yeah, that's World War III starting over there. That's Iran. That's the Persians. All right, so you know, you Jakes out there got to get your head out your ass and get into the word, man. Get into these scriptures, man. All right, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Okay. So we're gonna find out very soon. That's the beauty of these days, that we're gonna find out very soon who's with the Lord and who ain't, man. All right. We're gonna find out very soon who's with the Lord and who is not. All right. And the more these prophecies pop off, you're gonna see these Christians just looking at each other, looking around, just hoping that nobody, you know, asks them anything. That's not the right spirit to be in. That's not the spirit of a godly person. We're supposed to be ready to give an answer, man, about our hope in the Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Because if it was just Armageddon and there wasn't no salvation tied to it, then what would be our hope? The reason why we're so excited about those things happening, because we know salvation comes with it. And we're tired of this wicked world. And the Lord put the spirit on us, which you gotta have you gotta be a little crazy to believe in this truth, man. You know, that's why the scriptures talks about being fools for Yahushai's sake. All right. Because to believe that all of this is going to be wiped out with nuclear fire and that you're going to be safe from that, hey man, you know, you gotta be you gotta believe. That's all I'm gonna say, man. You gotta have a gift of faith for that, and that's what the Lord gave us. And that's why people look at us like we're crazy, because we're saying these things and we wholeheartedly believe it. Thermonuclear destruction is coming, and the elect of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to be delivered from it. We believe in that 144%. Okay. But as these last days, you know, wind down, we're gonna find out that many of these people that proclaim, they do not truly believe. All right, which we already know that now is going to be made even more manifest. All right, as the days go on, and people gonna, you know, settle into their actual devilish nature. All right, so you know, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. All praise be unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Hakwadash. Lord's will is edifying. Shalom to the elect.